Hello friends, welcome to the another video session. Today I'm going to talk about the non-functional testing, one of the non-functional testing, that is performance testing. So in this my video session you understand how you can approach to the performance testing. My idea of this video making is to convince you, if you are new to this performance testing or you are already have some experience, so you could also increase the knowledge with this video. So let's begin what I can share with you today with the contents. Today I will talk with you uh, why we need this performance testing and when to start, and type of the bugs defect we can get from the while doing the performance testing, and also I will talk with you how to approach first time for the performance testing, and also I will explain you how to create the baseline and how to make a benchmarking, and also I explain you briefly test result analysis, and also I can focus you like what key points you can talk with the development team when you start performance testing, and also I can briefly explain you like in a practical, not in practical but in general, if you are a tester, how you can approach for the web application testing itself, and also I will talk with you result analysis and log analysis that will bring you more understanding what you need to check, what kind of results you need to look for when you do performance testing, and at the end I can share with you some of the performance testing tools information, and uh, on the overall this my video session I only uh, help you to gain more knowledge how you can approach for the software performance testing. When you heard performance testing, you always heard about load test and stress test. uh, these uh, these jargon words are interrelated to the uh, testing of the any application, and I like to explain you what was the difference between performance testing and load testing and stress testing. Performance testing is the best possible performance expectation under a given configuration of the infrastructure, and load testing is the test is basically used for the testing the system under the top load it was designed to operate under, and test is an attempt to break the system uh, by overwhelming its resources. Let's go with the next slide. We understand more in general what is performance testing, and what was how we approach to software application. Uh, in general, a testing practice of performed to determine the how system performed in terms of responsiveness and stability under particular workload. It can also serve its investigate, measure, and validate, verify the quality of the attribute of the system, such as scalability, readability, and resource usage. So this is a in general a big definition of the performance testing. And when you start performance testing, you have to set the performance goals, uh, like for what purpose you are actually doing this performance testing, because in general performance testing can be serve the different purposes. For example, it can demonstrate that the system meets the performance criteria or not. It can compare two systems to find the which performance better. It can measure which part of the system workload caused the system to perform badly. So these all points you need to consider when you approach for the performance testing, because once you have a clear goal or a problem why you are doing this performance testing, then it is much more easy you to get the clear results. Let's move to the next slide and try to understand what was the uh, difference between concurrency throughput and performance monitoring and server hardware parameters. So concurrency throughput are like a servant response time, render response time, and performance specification. If you look at the server side, it's a CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, and network utilization, and database utilization. So in general approach, you have to look these all the possible uh, output with the whole software application when you're testing. Let's move to the next slide and understand what kind of defect we can get when we do performance testing with any software application. So performance test help us to determine the poor response time of the software application and long load time and bottlenecking, and it's also bring highlight on a poor scalability of the application itself, and also it can showcase the software configuration issues such as the web servers, load balancers, databases, etc. And also it can find issues related to disk usage, and also it's also bring the limitation of the system itself and poor network configuration and the software application memory utilization, and it's a CPU utilization with the server and insufficient hardware resources. Such different kind of defect we can expect uh, when we do the performance testing with any software application. So maybe these all terms what I'm talking with you may be new, but once you start doing this, actually involve yourself in a performance testing, you get much more clear idea. Let's go to the next slide and understand how to approach first time for the performance testing. And performance specification should ask the following question at the minimum. So basically as a tester, our key skill is to ask the questions. So in performance test, if you are approaching, so you need to understand, you need to ask so many questions before doing this, because you need a much more information about in a different point of view. So it will help you to make performance test much more clear, and it help to bring the clear results goals with the whole software application. For example, if any application, when you start testing, you're supposed to look for the software architecture itself. uh, if for example, if the software in architecture it is interacting with more than one outside systems, so you have to aware about it, because these are not an integral part of the software itself, those are external part. uh, so so you have to have a minimum knowledge how the software architecture it is, so where request and response are going, and what kind of uh, what kind of on what kind of platform, on what kind of technology it is built itself, whole application. Such knowledge you have to have. So and you have to have a previously performance bottlenecks. So 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 what was the goal? For example, when you're doing first time performance testing, normally you don't have the bottleneck. uh, so so that why that time, you if you don't aware, then one thing you can ask the either software architect or the stakeholder about the performance bottleneck values. If they have, they will provide you something. If they don't have, then you have to create the baseline for yourself. I will explain you more about this in the next slide, how you can do. And also you need to understand what kind of scenario you need to be tested. That means you have to have some test cases that will determine the 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 performance of the system. For example, if you have an e-commerce website, you have to have some scenario, uh, business scenario that most of the time user use to do the to execute uh, user flows, those where most of the time user is using. From that you can determine like, okay, this is important test scenario, it is a business value, then you can add those to the your test scenarios. So you have to have the clear performance goals, and also you have to have the knowledge about what application type it is. It's a web application or a standalone application, uh, or something it connected with more than one system and interacting. So you have to have this kind of knowledge. And also you have to have the knowledge about on which platform it is developed, on what technology it is used. It is working on the Azure server, or it is working on Amazon server, and it is with the .NET technology or Java technology, Java programming language technology, or PHP, so on. And what kind of API calls it is interacting, if they have APIs like a JSON, XML, and so on. And also you have to have knowledge about what kind of database it is using. At the back end, it is MySQL database or MongoDB, or something else, and so on. uh, and also you have to know like the overview, how targeted application look like itself. Maybe it may be whole application is already scaled and it is on a multiple servers. So you need to know this also. And also you need to know like what the protocol between the client and server. Normally the protocols are like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, and so on. Like if it is a normally web application, normally these kind of protocol use. But if it is some special type of application, definitely they have a different protocol using that time. And also you need to know like client browser version dependent in case of a web application. Also you get to know, like you have to know about the what kind of tools you can use to do for performance testing. Also you need to know like what were the business critical transaction. For example, if you look whole application, example you have a e-commerce web store. If you look whole the e-commerce store, the business critical transactions are like user buy, take the select a product and add to his check cart and check out and pay the payment and log out. So this is a very crucial, a critical transaction. So such scenario you need to identify. If you don't know, definitely you need to ask for the, if you're working in a scrum, you can ask for the product owner. If you are not in a scrum, you can ask for the stakeholder. So you need to get to know like what scenario you need to test, because there is not much sense you test all possible scenarios in performance testing, because this bring not any sense, of course. But if the application is critical itself, you can check. but if application is medium size and small size, so definitely it not help anything for you to do so many test cases to test. And also you need to know like most frequently accessed transactions. So what are the possible mm, user flows user oftenly doing. For example, user is going to the home page on the web store and about us page on the home page, and maybe there is an entertainment section, he's going for entertainment section to look for some videos, some cartoons, and so on. So you need to look like a if you don't know, then if your e-commerce store has a integrated with some analytical uh, uh, softwares, for example it integrated with the Google Analytics, then you can ask for the Google Analytics password from the in your team, in your support team, so with your project respective, and you can try to look this Google Analytical data. So then you understand like what user is doing exactly on your website, so you can get much more concrete idea, clear idea that help you to make this test very clearly. And also you need to understand like a performance intensive test, what you need to do. For example, if you have e-commerce store and you have the search box option over top right of the corner, that is very important because when user come and start writing something in a search box, they're supposed to be product are appeared when he click on a search, product need to appear on the very fastly with the accurate data. So such performance intensive also need to understand. If you don't know, then you normally raise this question to the uh, stakeholders or a product owner, they maybe provide you answer. And also you need to know like what is the scope of the testing itself. And already we talked about subsystems with the with the with the whole system and interfaces, component, and scope of this whole test. And also you need to understand how many different types of UI user interfaces are involved used by the system itself, and number of concurrent users expected each. For example, your web store has two pages. You need to understand which page is more often used by the user and which options in the page used more frequently by the user. And also you need to know like more about hardware itself, like I already talked with like what kind of server it is and how much CPU server has and how much memory RAM it has the server. So such details you have to have it for your documentation. And also you need to know about application workload with a different point of view, like 20%, 40%, 30%. And also workload mix, like you are combining like two test scenario into the one test, then you are running those tests. So such scenarios you have to uh, understand, and you have to make the workload mix with them, and so on. So these kind of questions you need to ask uh, to the uh, to the to the either to the software architect itself in your team, and or some questions you need to ask for the stakeholders. And of course some question if you don't know, you can also talk with the developers, main key developers in your project. They can answer you some of the questions. But still, if you have some requirement document, from requirement document and business document with the software application, you can answer yourself all these questions reading this whole document. Let's go to the next slide and understand what was the difference between baseline versus benchmarking. Benchmarking is a comparing performance of a company with the best practice in the industry. So, friends, uh, it is very important when you start testing the any application for performance testing. You maybe not have the any kind of result first time. Okay, that mean you are approaching freshly to the system and no one did any performance test on the system, okay, itself. So that mean you are doing first time and you get some results. So these results are a baseline. So so it the baseline is setting up the framework uh, for the benchmarking. So normally when you approach for the performance test, you have to make the baseline. You have to bring certain number of values. Then second is benchmarking. Benchmarking help uh, you to determine uh, what was the best system performance. So this is a main thing you need to understand. If there is no any first time you results, you I mean like you are doing first time performance test with any system, then what you get these results, you consider them as a baseline. And when you start doing second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth like such test, then you understand more about the values. Then you can compare those values with the some industry standard. I give you one example. For example, you are testing the e-commerce website, and uh, industry benchmark I say like a 3-second whole website with the 25 products on a website they need to be loaded in a 3 seconds. So this is one benchmarking. So such scenarios you can investigate, and you can determine what is the best with your application. And remember, all applications have a different they built on different technologies and they work in a different way. So maybe these values are differ from your previous experience to what you're doing now. So okay, let's go to the next slide and look what was the difference between front end and back end, and what kind of uh, issues we normally notice, or a defect we notice from the front end and back end. So front end means in normal like what you see in the user interface from the front side of the application. In a backend means it may be if the application itself has a content management system, you can say also it is as a backend. Also with that there is a database behind it. If you testing the front end of the application, that means front end need to determine the response time of the application, how fast the things are loading. In such scenario you can consider for the uh, such type of values you can consider for the front end performance testing. And if you are in a back end and you have to look for the if system is communicating with the external APIs with a third party, then you have to determine the what was a API called speed, response time, and also you need to check the database in a backend. So it's like that. In simple example, imagine you are doing the performance test on a front end with the web application, and backend is a server. So one way you have to look all possible results in the front end side of the application, and backend side you have to look for the database and API calls and server resource consumption and so on. So it help you to uh, get the whole system performance instead of only front end. uh, there are different way of measuring the performance. In some systems uh, there is no user interface. Okay, that means user interface is some kind of hardware instead of the software, but backend itself contain the software, and it has some server resources, like it has a server and it has a database. So we can also do this kind of performance test by analyzing the server logs and also server monitoring, and also using the database queries with analyzing the database. Let's go to the next slide and understand what kind of communication you have to keep with the development team. See, in the team, mm, we have different uh, people with designations, and they have different knowledge with the application, because no one know everything in the system. If architecture uh, even don't know sometime the basic, uh, not a basic, but I mean like what is a coding structure in the front end side, because all have a different set of tasks they did for the building the application. So sometime uh, uh, you need to ask same question to different people to get the much more clear and concrete results. So normally you need to talk with the development team members. uh, you need to ask them some sort of the documents if they have, and also you need to know about the more about the product itself and the application knowledge you have to gain. And if it is a newly developed product, then of course you need to uh, ask a lot of questions, because it is something unique. And also if you don't have this domain knowledge, you can always ask the question to the architecture board, or you can consult some of the senior developer who designed this system. And also you can read some online outside the box, so you can learn more about this domain itself. So it will help you to to increase the knowledge with this, with your testing application. And of course you need to look for the documents if they have some SRS, software requirement specification documents, or some test documents. So these all help you. And also you need to check how you report the defects when you found something while you're doing the performance testing. And also you need to have a clear strategy when you test again those issues uh, once they get fixed, because you're not able to run performance tests continuously, because it will not bring any sense or any value. But if you plan it and you approach systematically, it will bring much more result. So you can have a you can say like what exactly results from the performance testing. Let's go with the next slide and understand, if you are approaching performance testing of the web application as a tester, what you need to know. So so just imagine your first time uh, doing performance testing of the one of the web application. That example, this is a one of the e-commerce web store. At that time you need to identify the uh, test environment in normally in companies, in development, uh, there are different type of environment. One is dedicated to the development team, one is to the test team, and one is for the acceptance, or one is for the production. So you need to understand where you are doing this test, and also uh, keep in the mind little bit uh, what you are testing, which environment you are selecting. uh, for example, test environment you are using, so it's supposed to be very similar to the uh, production system with the production data, so it will bring much more clear results with this performance testing. And also you need to identify the performance acceptance criteria. For example, you are doing some test, then someone, or you need some sort of boundaries, like where you can say like, okay, this is what result I'm looking for. So that you have to have a clear acceptance criteria, and you have to plan and design the test. That I told you already. You need to determine the business critical business transactions and most user using part of the web application. In this way you have to make these test cases, and you need to know about the configure the test environment. Normally if you don't have IT teams, then you're supposed to be look around how you manage this one, and you need to know about implement the test design, and then you need to execute the test. Then you have to analyze the results, and you can fine tune, when you can show these results in a graphical way. Then at the end you need to retest whole the whole the whole the test cases when new release of the application will come. So 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 these are the in general uh, steps if you are testing any application, web application. Let's go with the next slide and understand what kind of results we get when we do the performance testing. So that I called here result analysis. So when you use any performance testing tool, normally they give you results either in a graph, or sometimes they also you get results in an Excel sheet. Then from the Excel sheet you can generate some values with the graphs. So and this will help you to understand the more information about the server side, or application results. And one more side is like the log analysis. Log analysis are we can collect from the different part of the point of view. One is we can collect also server side logs and DB errors in CPU consumption, and client side logs, and read write such errors also we can collect. So these logs also help us to determine the some defects with the performance of the application. Most important is like a result analysis. When you do performance test, you get some sort of results, so then afterwards you need to fine tune those got results to show to the uh, to the product stakeholder, like what was the result from the performance testing. Let's go to the next tile and get to know what are the performance testing tools. So you see lot of logos I collected for you. There are number of tools available. uh, Few are paid tools, and many are free also. So for example, JMeter. Apache JMeter is one of the famous tool. It is open source and free. And load UI smartware is free at some certain level, and Gatling also free tool, and so on. There are a number of tools available in the market. So in my upcoming videos I will try to uh, uh, show you number of tools. Time to time uh, time to time I will show you one tool and next tool and next tool and so on. So I try to show you as many possible tools you can use for the performance testing. And that's it, my friends, in today's videos. If you like my video, what I discussed with you today, uh, please share with your friends, and also do not forget to comment on the videos with some sort of information that you already know about performance testing, and if you know some tools for performance testing, so do not forget to comment. So idea is to, like, when you comment something, if you give your thoughts to the uh, in the comments, some other viewer also learn and gain his knowledge about the performance testing. I hope, friends, you like this my video, today's video, and in next video I will come with you one of the performance testing tool. Then on practical part we use this whole tool and get some results and briefly do the result analysis. Thank you, friends. See you in next video.